Hi, my name is Taradislam, and for my final project, I worked on a 51 megawatt grid-connected solar voltaic farm in the rural province of St. Louis, northern Senegal. It's expected to be constructed on 40 hectares of land through a land as equity agreement, and by design should be eligible for multilateral development bank funding. The area of the land is currently empty and unviable for agriculture. It's directly adjacent to an agriculturally intensive community, which will be the primary recipients of the electricity generated. The electricity will be generated at less than 50% the cost of, national energy rates right now. The expected cost per kilowatt hour is 0.056 cents compared to the national average of 0.17 cents of 17 cents per kilowatt hour. I put together various profit scenarios, which we will go through shortly, and there are several required community involvement initiatives, as well as tangible, quantified health and environmental benefits, and in terms of CO2 emissions avoided per year, disability-adjusted life years, and resource depletion costs saved. So 46% of people in Senegal lack electricity, mostly in rural areas, and that makes more than 61% of the total population. Fundamentally, this means that Senegal is an ideal market for multilateral development funding for power and electricity-based initiatives. As you can see on the map in Figure 1, most of the rural areas in northern and central Senegal have almost 0% electricity. These are the areas that will be targeted by the project. Senegal has extremely cost-intensive energy production, and it's largely due to drought. But also because 90% of electricity generation is from imported oil, generation costs are extremely high at 17 cents per kilowatt hour. Figure 2 in the center of this PowerPoint demonstrates the ratio of oil to gas to biofuels produced in 2016. Electricity provides numerous benefits to the community, not only in terms of job creation by creating jobs for individuals to operate and maintain electricity generators, as well as creating service roads, but also because private sector operators will be able to increase their sales. Socioeconomic activity will increase because energy will allow people to work longer days. Decrease theft and crime due to the extension of public street lighting, improved nutrition because food and pharmaceuticals can be stored in cold fridges. Living conditions will be increased due to increased usage of household appliances. Sanitary conditions improved because community health centers and hospitals will be able to improve their health services. Pollution is reduced because currently the current diesel microgrid has many environmental risks and damages, including greenhouse gas emissions, not only to mention that there's pollution from the risk of oil leakage from the diesel-based microgrid. Finally, there will be increased literacy and greater childhood education because the communities will be able to access computers, and they will also have better supply of drinking water because of solar pumping. The northern area of Senegal, as highlighted in red on the slide, is an ideal area for the construction of a grid-connected solar power farm. As you can see, there is high photovoltaic power potential in Figure 7. The purple and the dark orange indicate there is high potential for PV output, and it's correlated to irradiation statistics found in Figure 8, which also highlighted in red shows that the dark orange area in northern Senegal gets a lot of sunshine and thus is an ideal area at a 17-degree latitude for the construction of a solar farm. the 40-hectare land is 17 degrees north, and it also has poor vegetation, high sunshine, it's unoccupied, which will mean that there won't be mandatory resettlement. It's also directly adjacent to an agriculturally intensive area, which means there are about 11 communities who lack electricity and will be able to benefit from the generation of electricity. The size was chosen by me after looking through, several different multilateral development bank projects focused on solar that have previously taken place in Senegal. Specifically, the USAID has the Power Africa initiative. They closed Synergy 1, which is a 29 megawatt project in 2016, and it was about $47.9 million. In a very specific area. Synergy 2, similar to my project, was in northern Senegal. However, it was a lower cost at $28 million and only provided 20 megawatts of power. The project by design had a 20-year power purchase agreement with the monopoly national service provider, which will be mirrored in my project as well. The 10 Marine and Dakar project in Senegal is another solar project that closed. It was $45.2 million at 29.5 megawatts, and it was also in the north. They also had a PPA with the utility service provider Senelec. So this project, in order to qualify for multilateral development bank funding, has mandatory requirements for community reinvestment, and one such requirement includes land as equity for land acquisition. There are often a lot of negative impacts of resettlement, including loss of livelihoods, loss of access to assets, and an exploitative undervaluation of the actual cost of land. However, a land as equity deal will ensure that these livelihoods are not damaged. The local municipality in northern Senegal, under this agreement, will be able to use the value of its land as an equity contribution towards a hypothetical joint venture with the private sector. As such, they'll receive dividends from the profits obtained by the company, which will be acquired by selling the low-cost electricity to Senelec. Hypothetically, the public sector will quote-unquote invest in the value of its land, and they'll be able to reap the benefits of external finance, and they can avoid more costly sources of funding. Some of the mandatory requirements include job creation and gender equality initiatives. Investments from local funds means that the local investors will be able to receive profits. Allocation of 2% of project revenues to local communities. There's a preference to women for jobs, a 70% job allocation to local communities, public-private partnerships, and solar pumping. And the increased energy mix overall will decrease the national price of electricity due to a more efficient energy mix. So in order to calculate the effective area of 40 hectares, first we need to convert hectares to square meters using a conversion rate of 10,000, which means that the total land area is about 400,000 square meters. Assuming a standard amount of 15% of land is used for service roads, the remaining available land area for panel installation would be 340,000 square meters, which is the effective area. The installed capacity, assuming a panel specification size, is a standard 150 megawatts and an effective area of 340,000 square meters would be 51 megawatts. Using the formula in the slide. The D-rate factor has been calculated using research from the National Renewable Energy Lab, which estimates a 3% average cloud cover, 2% average soiling, 10% other various negative externalities. The expected system losses, thus, in total are about 14%. So the D-rate factor is optimistic 85.92%, given the 14% projected system losses, and because the system will be new and more efficient, developed in 2020. Irradiation, as mentioned before in the previous slide, is high, and the area itself is 17 degrees north. The panels would be tilted 17 degrees southeast towards the equator to maximize their exposure to sunlight in the spring and fall equinoxes, with an increased tilt of 15 degrees in the winter and summer. So I took the solar irradiance figures from the Solar Electricity Handbook, which shows an average of 5.89 kilowatt hours per day, where the usual unit specifically refers to the amount of hours with an irradiation of 100 watts per meter squared per day per month. These statistics were inputted into the yellow column on the slide in order to estimate the annual electricity production, which is 94 million kilowatt hours per year, and the total project cost of approximately 71.4 million. This also took into consideration the D-rate factor we previously assumed of 85.92%, as well as a low operating cost of 0.7% per watt in DC in US dollars, and of a 0.7% operating cost as a percentage of capital, and 1.40, $1.40 per watt DC for the price per watt DC. Therefore, this is how we calculated the total cost, which is more or less aligned to the estimates that were retrieved from the Power Africa example closed deals that I did the research on in order to estimate the land size and the land area. The total capital cost is about 5.3 million, and the production cost is an extremely low $0.056 or about 6 cents. Because the solar project has been structured by design to be eligible from funding from development funds, it is fair to presume a discounted mortgage rate of 3% and a grace period of 20 years. Hence, the annual mortgage cost is about $4.8 million, and the annual expected operating cost is $500K, which, when added up, has a grand total expenditure figure of $5.3 million. Given that the corporate tax rate in Senegal is 30%, and electricity production costs are 0.056 US dollars, the wholesale price, which is what we'll actually charge buyers of the electricity, can be estimated at a 10 and 20% gross profit margin scenario, which would make the wholesale price about 6 cents per kilowatt hour, or 7 cents per kilowatt hour respectively. Local prices are 17 cents per kilowatt hour, which is 2/3 higher than the project's electricity prediction rate of 0.056 cents. And the national average and the regional average is about 11 cents per kilowatt hour, as per statistics found from Bloomberg Global Petrol prices for Nigeria, Ghana, Tanzania, and Namibia. As such, it's fair to actually assume an even higher profit margin of 50% by charging at the regional rate of 11 cents per kilowatt hour. This would, leave us with about 2.5 million in profit, and the village would receive 30%, or about 1.06 million. The project by design is eligible for multilateral development fund funding, but it's also a public-private partnership. The monopoly utility company Senegal will have a 20-year public power purchase agreement, and the energy will be sold at 65% of the average kilowatt hour price, at the wholesale price of 11 cents per kilowatt hour. Senegal is the main buyer, as they're the main provider of energy, but there may be potential for private companies to also have commercial PPAs. Senegal also has 10 rural electrification cooperatives, 6 of which have already been allocated to private operators through international tenders. This project will put in a bid for the remaining 4 rural electric cooperatives. There is significant support from the public sector already. The government is really supportive of electrification initiatives and has already partnered with the IFC, with the Millennium Challenge Corporation, and with the U.S. Agency for International Development. The next 2 slides just walk through a couple of potential funders, including the Carbon Initiative for Development, the Green Africa Power Fund, the IFC, the Millennium Corporation, Africa Renewable Energy Fund. There's just so many different opportunities to apply this project for funding, given the requirement for community involvement. Additional profits can be achieved by selling carbon emissions through carbon finance. They can provide a connection subsidy through a coupon or a voucher to rural households from results-based carbon finance, and this would be part of government subsidy. There are several health and environmental benefits. The electricity produced will will reduce about 58,539 metric tons of CO2 and 54,000 metric tons of CO2 would be saved. Human health and disability-adjusted life years will improve by 212.9 years, and ecosystem damages will improve by about 1,000 species years. Resource depletion costs will be reduced by 285 million in 2008 USD. The value of the statistical life saved, which has been estimated by using the U.S. as a benchmark against Senegal's and the income inequality of 1.5, between the 2 countries, means that the VSL, the value of this the statistical life saved, would be significant. Potential hindrances include cloud cover, dirt, and sand, which can be mitigated by human labor cleaning the plant, as well as a machine that can blow off dust. There might be environmental damages during initial site construction by building access roads, construction waste, which will be moderate but can be mitigated with prior oversight. There might be some potential loss of access to assets and by resettlement, which also can be mitigated by a resettlement policy framework. The high upfront cost of connection, which we previously discussed, can be mitigated by a carbon-linked results-based payment scheme, and environmental impacts may also come from irresponsible disposal of lead-acid batteries that can pollute the soil and water. Trained service technicians can help mitigate this risk as well. So thank you for listening, and as well as for the semester.